Happy Fire Alarm Friday, and welcome to System Test 9. So today's system test is going to be a simulation of a system that is very near and dear to my heart. It's the fire alarm system from my elementary school from 3rd through 5th grade. I went there a long time ago now, well over a decade ago, as it would seem these days, and the old system there was being replaced probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And my younger sister, followed up behind me and went through the same school, so I was still roaming the halls every once in a while, and I had noticed that they were cutting holes in the ceiling for new Wheelock Exceeder ceiling mount horn strobes. And I noticed that some of the old devices were starting to get covered up with blank plates. So I spoke to my friend, the principal there, who was the principal during my time growing up there, and I had asked him about the system, and we had talked for a little while, and a few months later, after the new system was commissioned and the old one had been removed, he sent me an email saying, "I've got a big trash bag full of alarms waiting in my office. When can you pick them up?" So this system test is going to be a simulation of that system. It's pretty close, about as close as I can get on a simulation, because the devices on the system are going to be the devices from that system. It's not like I went on eBay and ordered similar ones. This pull station was mounted in one of the vestibules of that school. The horns that you'll see were mounted in the hallways of that school. So it's really cool to have these old devices in my collection from another time there, but to know that these were the devices that I grew up with. I've walked past this station 1,000 times when I was, 10, 12 years older, or younger rather, and so it's really cool to have these in my collection, and they definitely hold a special place there on the shelf. So the system consisted of these Notifier BNG1s. These are the older style with the spring, but they're not quite old enough that the fire lettering was embossed on the sides, as the super old first generation ones were. So these were the BNG1s. They don't use terminals, so they're all just pigtail leads. I've got 3 of these in my collection, and this one is the one that wound up being in the nicest of condition. With these, they all sat in vestibules with the glass doors going outside, so many of them did get baked in the Las Vegas summer sun. So as you can see, the lettering has faded quite considerably over the years, but this one is one of the ones in nicer condition, so it's good to have that one up here, and it works well. So it's a really cool piece to have. One thing that I've noticed about these is that the particular spring, which I'll go into detail here later, that holds these shut, is not ADA compliant. It requires more than 5 pounds of pull force on most of these stations. This particular one doesn't appear to have that issue. I think I've broken the spring in over time, so I believe it's gotten a little bit better. So the system was a Notifier System 5000, which I did obtain that panel, and unfortunately I could never get it to work. I've got a picture here on screen for you of that exact panel, and some of the parts that I had received from it there, so that way you can see that. But the MS5UD is going to be substituting in. It'll be doing everything pretty much the same way that that system would have done it. The system was a 24-zone panel, if I recall correctly. It was a 3-bay chassis with 24 zones, and it was set to march time. Now, the system did not have any strobes. It was all just electronic horns. They weren't electromechanical, they were electronic. The first ones that were in the hallways of the school, the main interior hallways, were these, the Wheelock EHDL1. It's similar to the EHSDL1, except it's just it's a horn only. There were no strobes at all. These particular ones were mounted in the interior hallways, so these weren't in classrooms or anything like that. Which I found quite interesting was that, these are only in the hallways, but additionally, there were some other horns in the building too. Inside of the classrooms were these, Gentex GX90-4s. These are remote mini horns in red. As you can see, when they were removed from service, the terminals, or the pigtail leads rather, were unfortunately cut short, and I have not had the opportunity to repair this particular one. I don't have any in my collection right now that I have repaired. I received 9 of these, and I haven't had any right now that are currently all ready to wire on the system, so we won't be doing one of those today. But I do have quite a few GX90s. I've got both these, and then I've also got a set of the white ones with the 988 strobe as well. You can see that this device was manufactured in December of 1990, so this is now coming up on a 30-year-old alarm, so it's definitely cool to have this one here in my collection and to have quite a few of them. And finally, on the exterior of the building were these. There were quite a few of them that were dotted all over the outside, way up high, about 20 or 30 feet high, on weatherproof back boxes, which I do still have some of those. They are the Cerberus PyroTronics EHO-24s. You might be thinking these are the Wheelock edition, however, this little embossed bit here would indicate that this is rather a Cerberus PyroTronics model. Kind of see it's carved in. I think I might, yeah. So yeah, there it is. It was upside down, but you can just barely make out the old Cerberus PyroTronics label, which was once painted silver. So once again, years of the Vegas sun got to these. We will be using one of these. I'll swap the EHDL1 later in the system test for one of these, so that way we can go ahead and hear the difference between the two horns. So this one is one of the ones that wound up in nicer condition. You can see where some of the mounting screws had kind of corroded over the years with weather and rain, and I've touched them up as best I can, but I'd rather keep them in pretty much their original condition because they've got a long story to them and a long life here in the past. So we'll be using one of these here a little bit later. I believe, if I recall correctly, I've got 7 of these in my collection, along with 4 or 5 of the weatherproof back boxes that were supplied with them. Now, in that big lot of fire alarms were also a couple System Sensor 2400s, which have appeared in many of my older videos that are since privatized. But those 2 photoelectric smoke detectors that I have were used in the hallways, and then additionally there were some notifier heat detectors, I believe Model 602s, that were located in the cafeteria kitchen. But without further ado, and without further rambling, I'm going to go ahead and set the system off. As I said, the system is set to 120 beats per minute march time, as was the original coding in the building. So the MS5UD is going to be coding it to that as well. So let's go ahead and give it a pull. Go ahead and get this acknowledged. There we go, and the alarm has been silenced. As we can see, there's an alarm on zone 1. So, as I had mentioned earlier, the springs in these were some of the heavier duty ones, not just the little metal tab that the newer BG8s and BNG1TS series have. These springs do require considerable force, however, I think that over the years of pulling this one repeatedly, I've worked this one down a little bit, and as you saw, it didn't really pull too hard without a fight there. So I think this one is now well within ADA limits. But yeah, so that's the interior of it. As you can see, it still has its old serial number from Notifier on it, which is kind of cool. That's definitely an older device with a handwritten serial number. You don't see that too often at all. So let's go ahead and take our Notifier key, and it just resets. Simple as that. And of course, no audible silence because we don't have any strobes running. I have disconnected the moderator alarm once again while I'm still working on that project, so it won't be returning for a little while. So let's go ahead and give the system a reset. So I really like having this annunciator here. It definitely makes things a lot easier than going back and forth. And of course, all the trebles are still on there. I do have NAC 1 disabled as well, just because we don't have a strobe circuit here in the bedroom. NAC 3 and 4 still not running right now because the hallways doesn't have anything in it. So let's go ahead and switch devices over, and we'll go over to the EHO-24. Okay, we are now switched to the Cerberus PyroTronics EHO-24. This has a very similar tone to the EHDL1. However, it's just slightly different, and hopefully the microphone I've got here on the camera will pick that up. So I think for this demonstration, I would like to key activate the pull station, so that way you can kind of relive old fire drills. Definitely has a very distinct sound to it. There we go. We'll go ahead and reset here. Here, we've got all the trebles, of course. Now, I think what I'd like to do to conclude the test is we're going to go and set the panel in continuous, just because it was not a coding option that was ever used in my time at the school. However, I think it would still be kind of interesting to use that. So I'll go ahead and jump over to the panel, and let's switch it over to continuous. Alright, so we are back over at the MS5UD here, which we haven't seen in a couple videos. So, yeah, I've still got the voice module hanging out here. It's just disconnected right now in case I decide to use it again. So let's go ahead and go into programming mode. There we go. All right, and then we'll go to NACs. NAC 2 is going to become steady. Go ahead and escape. Acknowledge everything. And then let's go ahead and do a drill for this one. Definitely a loud device. I'm glad I have hearing protection on at the moment. We'll be sure to put that back into March time, just in case the system goes off again. There we go, and then NAC 1. Oh, sorry, not NAC 1, NAC 2 is where we want to be. So we'll go into March time. There. Perfect. Let's see here. Alright, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it here, but these are the two System Sensor 2400 smoke detectors, and then atop those are the Notifier heat detectors. So I've got those still here in my collection. You can still see there are a couple of the GX90s way back there on the shelves, as well as the other two EHDL1s, and then a few of the EHO-24s. I tried to limit the number of duplicates I have on the shelf because, as you can see, I have certainly run out of space with all the crazy new devices and things that I've been getting lately. So it's cool to have such a big collection, and I'm very thankful for it. It's definitely grown a lot since adding those other devices. And yeah, there's like Spectra alerts and integrities and all sorts of commanders, and there's a really cool Ademco horn that I want to show off in one of the future videos. There's the speaker strobe, and then the 9217. So it's definitely grown a lot since 2013 when I took on all of those devices from that elementary school, but I'm certainly thankful for everything here in the collection and for everyone from whom I've purchased it. So I guess without getting too sappy here, we'll go ahead and finish up the system test. But yeah, that was System Test 9. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you're watching, Mr. Gelson, thank you so very much for the donation of alarms. It certainly means a lot all these years later. So that'll be it for the video. In any case, that's all I've got for you. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, everyone.